told you also yesterday, it is not just about other people. First of all, the example of a traveler is Jesus himself. He's going through different places and stages. He is there with people. Jesus is not a guru who is sitting in one place and waiting till someone comes to him. He is man and prophet and healer, and it does mean that he moves around. But we can start from the beginning. The first station where Jesus arrives is a cave in Bethlehem. We have the beautiful icon of Nativity. And actually this icon is kind of misleading because it shows us a peaceful atmosphere with people in celebration. The heavens and earth is celebrating. The kings, the shepherds, everything is nice, clean. And this is also kind of spirit of the Christmas. I think it's a little bit different here in Southern Hemisphere than in old countries, because there we have winter and everything is covered with snow when it's a good winter, and everything is clean and joyful, and those beautiful nights with stars and crisp snow under your feet. And you don't really think about how it was like back then in Bethlehem. Because this was actually a cave where shepherds kept their sheep. Around 20 years ago, when we visited Holy Land, I had a chance to go into that kind of cave around Bethlehem. That cave was not used for decades already, but in the moment you entered that cave, the stank was overwhelming. You cannot stay there because this is actually the stall. You know, they kept sheep there. And those sheep are not as nice and clean as in New Zealand. As you see, they're running around and joyful and so on. No, they were kept together in this small cave, and they were doing their business there. And not just the sheep were dirty and smelled horrible, but also the shepherds too. They were not like those shepherds here on the icon, in the nice hucurski kaftančiki. They were people who were dressed, you cannot even call that dress. And what they had on their bodies was filled with filth. They were filthy people. And so that cave was maybe the blessed possible place for God to appear, because it was so dirty and dark. But this was the place where people were. And Jesus is going there where we are. And you may say, oh, we are not living in dark caves. We have nice, big or small houses. We keep ourselves clean. We smell, maybe not with Chanel, but with other nice scents. Why that place? Why not to go somewhere else? But you see, it's always a little bit difficult with us because people are masters of denial. We have many dark places and spaces in our lives. Places where we do not allow God to enter. We say that this is time and place where I allow God to be part of my life, like when I'm going to church. And there are other spaces and times where I tell God, this is my private business. Do not tell me what to do. I spoke about that yesterday when we considered Abraham and his arguing, the constant arguing with God, when he tries to convince God that God is outdated and he, Abraham, is modern and he knows what to do and how to proceed in the world he lived in. So we create those places where we say, this is time when I make decision. And then, as in case with Abraham, we make all kind of mess in our life. Because we are not smart enough, and this is not a humble statement, this is just the statement. We are not wise enough to make all the right decisions. We often are kind of lost seeing all the opportunities and possibilities, and to choose the right one on our own, we have a hard time. And then people suffer because our wrong choices. And then so many things happen that really bothering us, and we are ashamed of those things, and we are just putting them aside, creating a space where we are not even looking anymore. And we are moving away from that space, not cleaning that, but just locking that. And you know, this is always our human way of dealing with mess in the houses, that we just try to ignore that. Not maybe everyone, but I certainly do. You know, my room sometimes is really messy, so I just don't look in that corner. And because in Auckland, in my room, the sunshine always comes after the midday. And so I'm closing all the, curtains in order not to see what mess is there in my room. And when I close all the curtains, the spiders come and nesting in my room. And in New Zealand, you know, it's everything way better than in Australia because we don't have any poisonous spiders. So I can live with my spiders. They keep mosquitoes away. But actually, if you open the curtains, then you see, oh my, this is a mess. And what you do, you just close the curtains and go to another room that someone may be cleaned. So this example is about us creating those rooms and closing them and being ashamed of them. Our decisions or failures or sins, they are growing up. And this is like, you know, there's a psychological condition, I may say, called in English hoarding, when people are gathered all the junk and they put this in this house and they don't want to deal with that and they just ignore them, and this house becomes a really junkyard. But people cannot throw anything away. They need help. They need people who come from outside to help them to clean the mess they created in the house. And one part of their consciousness is kind of understands that they need to deal with that, but another part, it's not just wary, resists to do anything with that. And so when people comes, and this was I saw that program about 3-4 years ago, an old military officer who was hoarding tires in his backyard. You know, completely useless junk. A mountain of tires there, and people came to clean up, and he was holding to every of those old tires that were not to use for anything. And he knew that he's supposed to throw it away, but he could not let him go. So this is the picture of us. Maybe we are not hoarding all this junk physically, but there's so much we're carrying around that we are ashamed of with us, the bad memories, what I told you, that what God is calling sin. We are carrying that with us, not willing to let it go. And this creates a dark place. So God is moving in that dark place, but He's not moving to make those people ashamed. He's not sitting there as a master making the sign with his finger and telling you are bad people. No, he's just going there in order to bring light and to bring solution. Actually, this is what we appreciate about God. He always having tens of thousands of people have taken. He does not come to make us ashamed, but to help us out. And he is moving from one dark cave to another. And we have our caves, like also here, the beautiful icon of resurrection of Lazarus. He is coming out of that cave. But there are so many caves. There is a cave that it's hard to see from here, but look up to the cross on the iconostas. There is a small dark cave with skull and bones. You know, I told you yesterday about the place in land of Moria where Jerusalem was builded, and how that place is connected at one side with offering of Isaac by Abraham that didn't happen, and with that of Christ on the cross. But Jewish tradition connects that even more deep. In tradition, that place was connected with the grave of Adam. And therefore on our crucifixes you have the skull and the bones. They are painted at icon in a cave. This is not just some scary sign on the cross. This is those are remains of Adam here. So God is going to that last cave where Adam is hidden or hide himself. We remember in of Genesis, when Adam sinned, he is hiding with Eve. They are not willing to admit that they did something wrong. They are not willing to go into the light of God. They're just hiding. And they hide in death. Death is a hiding place. As death is a place where humanity tries to hide from God, because the humans are ashamed of themselves. And therefore we have that beautiful icon of resurrection that actually shows us God is going to the last ultimate cave, that cave of Hades, where people are hiding. You may think, and many are thinking, that God is condemning people to go to hell. Actually, if we look at the picture and the story about the Last Judgment, beautifully described, and we listen to that story Sunday before what do you call that? The meat fair Sunday. Jesus is not imposing his judgment on people. He's just telling them, you choose that side because you are not merciful. You choose that side because you were not willing to change your life. You choose the dark side. It sounds almost like Star Wars, but this was way before that. You choose the dark side by all your actions and all your unwillingness to be part of the path of life. So that dark place is a place where humanity willingly goes because they are ashamed of themselves and they don't want to go to stay in the face of light. But Jesus is not accepting that choice. It's kind of strange. You may think that God should respect that freedom of our choice. But how could a loving father accept that his children are trying to harm themselves? How could a father or mother or parents accept that children are making not just the most horrible mistake in their lives? So he's going there, the most darkest place, into the death, and bringing light and life. And one of the most beautiful images and that icon is Jesus pulling Adam out of Hades. You know, it's not like just Adam is giving his hand and they kind of making a handshake or what. No, it's even more. Jesus is taking Adam by hand and pulling him as a little child, even though Adam is ages old. He is the first human. But he is a child for God. And therefore Jesus is taking him away from that bad place and bringing him back to life. So that story, the story of caves, the most important part of that story is that God is not ashamed of us. We may be ashamed of ourselves, but God is not ashamed of us, and He's going to all those dark places in order to bring light and give us solutions. Not to make us ashamed, but to give us solutions. His solution is His mercy and justice. Because it's not just about mercy, this is also about justice, and we will speak about mercy and justice this evening, so I invite all of you to come. But on this Saturday morning, when we remember God who is bringing light into the dark cave of Lazarus, bringing life there, we're asking Him also to come into our lives, to clean out all the mess we created and give us chance to change the life we live, to breathe freely, to not be ashamed, but to follow into His footsteps and be children of light who create light in this world. God will do that, as He did it in Bethlehem and there in Hades. He will bring us as He brought Adam. But let us at least stretch our hands to Him and ask Him for His guidance and light. Amen.
Промовимо си за сей души, сей мисли наші, промовимо. Господи, Вседержителю Боже, отців наших, молимось Тобі, вислухай, помилуй. Помилуй нас, Боже, по великій милості Твоїй.